right, everybody. We're here at episode 38. I have Jeff Cleary in here from Khs&S Contractors over in Anaheim, California. Jeff has worked his way up into general superintendent over at that operation, and he's going to have a great story to tell today. How you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
I
feel honored based on the predecessors that have been sitting in this chair. I've watched your episodes, and I'm honored to be in that group. So thank you.
No, that's awesome. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come in here and tell your story. And like we were talking earlier, the younger generation needs to hear these stories from guys that have all these years in the industry, you know,
Sure.
to share that, and they can get educated from it. So how many years have you been in?
Wow. I came in 1985 as a first stage drywall apprentice. And, so I'm, been, what is that, 35 years?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shit, you're a journeyman now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been a good long haul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And started at the very bottom. Who got you in?
I did. Well, that's, I was kind of thinking about, what that story was going to look like. And I'm going to go back just a little bit further. I always had an interest in construction, even when I was just a little kid, right? And my parents, who owned a restaurant in La Habra, California, there was an old shed behind the restaurant, and an old group, maybe someone listening to this podcast might remember them, Yeoman Brothers Acoustical. And it was just these 3 or 4 guys that just did acoustical ceilings back in the 70s and 80s. And they would come in and eat lunch and such at my parents' restaurant. And, I'm 7th, 8th grade looking for some work. And he said, I just come work with me. And so I was doing scrapping out. And, I remember nailing on wall angle on some concrete walls, beating up my fingers, what have you. Mm-hmm. And so my parents' restaurant in La Habra was kind of like this hub of people that would just keep coming and going. And in later years, I found out that I was actually serving coffee to Gary Jakes. I'm sure you've heard that name.
Is that right?
And I didn't even know it for years. I was serving this man. I was 11, 12 years old, serving Gary Jakes coffee.
No shit.
Didn't know it until I worked for Raymond years later, which I'll get into. And so, and my dad had waitresses and busboys and such for a typical restaurant. And a woman worked for my dad, and it was Wally Stafford's wife at the time, and his sister. So Wally's sister and his wife at the time worked for my dad as waitresses. And so, Jim and Wally and Dave Borders and all those guys and Gary, or not Gary, but other gentlemen would be coming in for breakfast on Saturdays, going to these side jobs and such, and I'm feeding them coffee and bringing them breakfast and such. And, just in conversation, and all of a sudden, just, what do you do? What are you listening to their conversations? And, hey, I'd like to get involved in some of that. And next thing you know, I'm working with Wally side by side, working on his house, side jobs. That guy was a side job maniac, right?
Yeah, really?
Oh, yeah. And, as a lot of us know, Wally just passed away.
Yeah, R.I.P. Yeah, for sure.
Just last month.
Mm-hmm.
So, sad day for the industry there.
Yeah.
But, the Stafford brothers really took me from just local little side jobs. I went through high school, and next thing you know, I was a Wally brought me in. He said, you know enough to be a second stage apprentice. And my first job, I was working out at Redondo Beach, Sheraton. First big job I've ever been on back in, I want to say it was 86, 87-ish.
Mm-hmm.
And worked for Raymond. It was actually I had to work for a semester in the trade from a trade school I was going to. So I worked for Raymond there. And then a lot of those guys, up and left and went to MB Drywall, worked for MB Drywall for basically until they somewhat closed their doors.
Mm-hmm.
and I was working with Rodney Klein at the time, and basically paychecks basically started not working, and so we all kind of separated, and I moved up to the Northern California area, followed Jim Stafford at that point.
Okay, got it.
And there was a group of us that moved up to Northern California, and we went to work for George M. Raymond up there in Concord. Built a lot of amazing buildings, during that time. And let's see, that was about 1990, 91-ish.
We're in a recession.
Yeah. And worked for Raymond until 99, actually. And then Khs&S opened up their Northern California region up in Concord. And as I was just, going up that road, I was, an apprentice, then a journeyman, and then I got the opportunity actually in Pasadena. Jim said, "Hey, I want you to run this little tiny office TI for me on the 8th floor of this building." It scared the crap out of me, right? This my first little thing's probably worth $20,000 or whatever it was at the time. And just with my drive and ethics and values, I just gave it 100% every day, like I was anyway. And I just followed those gentlemen around. And so the fast forward, moved up north, became a foreman up there. And then when I went to Khs&S, I became a general foreman in the industry and building great buildings. One of my top 3 in my career was the DeYoung Museum in Golden Gate Park. Just an amazing project. So from 99 to 2005, I worked for Khs&S in Northern California, and then I moved back down to Southern California in 2005.
Got it.
Interviewed with Greg Stedman. He was the general superintendent at the time, which he'll laugh when he hears. He basically demoted me when I moved down here. He said, "I don't think you're a project superintendent." I was a project superintendent at the time. Brought me down as a journeyman or a foreman. And
well, that happened to him too.
Did it?
Oh yeah. Man. He was wearing his bags again. When he got, he was a wood carpenter. Building bridges and forms and so forth, and then
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, his brother got him into the drywall stuff, and he frickin' started down at the bottom again.
Yeah.
But he moved up really quick because he knew how to read a tape.
Yeah.
Which is very important.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So, sorry about that.
Oh, no. And so then, like I said, I moved back down here in 2005. Basically, thank God I was able to transfer, my tenure in Northern California down to Southern California. And worked my way up to project superintendent again. And I was in that position until last May of 2019.
Got it. Now you're the big dog.
And now I was,
got the golden hard hat.
I had the opportunity to, work really close with Dave Suter at the time. And him and I had some very great conversations about this role and the executive team. And here I am sitting in front of you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
getting back to the acoustical guys,
yeah.
You were ambitious as a kid, wanting to, you're in 8th grade.
Yeah.
So you want to get this summer gig going.
That was exactly it.
These guys brought you in, and you got the feel for the field.
Sure.
What it's like out there, and it's not glamorous by any means.
No.
And how long did they keep you? Did they keep you for a couple of summers, or did you?
So it was just a summer deal, but it was 2 summers. So
okay.
I worked for them, and I was just a scrapper, stalker scrapper, cleaning up, probably at that point, probably all sorts of asbestos ceiling grid and everything we were working on, or
shit,
the tiles.
You're still here, man.
Yeah, yeah. We went into schools. They did a lot of school work at the time, but it was a summer job, and they would drop me back off at my parents' restaurant, because the little shed in the back, as I mentioned, was their kind of like their shop, and my dad rented them this little thing for bringing material and equipment in, and they dropped me off there, and I'd go into the restaurant and probably work a night shift with my mom and
Wow.
my dad, and then go to school the next day. Or if it was in summertime, I would just rotate every day. And
Yeah.
then they would, I'd sit home for a week, just like it is sometimes. And then they'd call me back. And yeah, it was a good,
Yeah.
good experience.
Shit, man, you were only like 13, 14 years old
Yeah.
when you were doing that.
Yeah. Well, I was bussing tables and serving coffee at 9 and 10, 11 years old in family restaurant, all my sisters. And
you guys have a very strong work ethic in your family then.
we really do. I mean,
Yeah.
all my family is like that. And I believe my son is the same way.
Yeah. That, if you love your children, you'll teach them how to work because they'll never starve.
Sure.
Some people need to be taught how to work. Some people, it sounds like you were kind of a natural at it because you had the hustle. You weren't just like gonna stay on your mom and dad's business, and you ventured out. You went to work for these guys, and look what kind of career it developed for you. By getting into that. That may have never happened, but on the other side of the coin, that's very interesting that Gary Jakes was in there, and Wally and Jim, and they would come in for breakfast. So, it was almost kind of destiny for you to get into this industry.
Yeah.
From the restaurant scene.
Yeah.
That's really cool stuff. So when they got you in, did you have to go through the apprenticeship program and all that stuff and go to school and everything? When the Staffords got you in?
Yes, absolutely. And so, back in the late 80s, if I recall, it was like a 3 or 4 year program. You were going at nights, and I would go
Once
to
a
the
week.
training center in Santa Fe Springs. Yeah.
Okay, so you went to that one too, over in on Lakeland.
Yep, I certainly did.
So that was actually 42L.
Yes.
That was a lather. So that's how you came in as a lather.
Yeah.
What a trip.
Yeah.
Because I know that a lot of guys in Orange County here, they had a training center in Santa Ana that the guys would go to. But back in the day, the carpenters were more wood carpenters. They had taken drywall, but it wasn't full blown yet. The lathers were still doing a lot of that stuff. So
yeah, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we shared. There was a lot of wood framing going on in the training center back as well.
Got it. In Santa Fe Springs.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always remember the low ceilings in there and framing some stuff up, and we were being trained in the old school methods, on tie-on metal lath, and we were still putting the stud shoes on the black studs. They and they were teaching us how to lay out radiuses and so forth, and so that was they've come a long way, man.
They certainly have.
In their training, they've come a long way. They really have. They've dumped a lot of money back into it.
During my apprenticeship, I got the opportunity to become apprentice of the year.
Is that right?
In that,
Wow.
Yeah. So we started at the training center there, and there was a small testing, I guess, criteria, if you want to call it, through the training center, and I passed that, and then I ended up being asked to go to the international drywall contest. It was actually in Hamilton, Ontario. This was, I want to say, it was '89.
No shit.
I want to say I was maybe a third or fourth stage apprentice at that time.
Got it.
And that was a great honor to do that. And
that's impressive.
Yeah, it was neat. I got golden hammers and some plaques and stuff. And I believe Wally Stafford also won Apprenticeship of the Year. I don't recall what year that was, but obviously years before that. So
got it.
He helped me through that as well. And yeah, it was a neat experience. It was held in a hockey rink in Hamilton, Ontario, and the local wood carpenters in Hamilton, Ontario had built these just these L-shaped platforms for the contestants. And I want to say there was, I think, 12 of us that made it to that point. And you brought all your tools to you flew them up there, brought all our tools, and they would give you. There was a written section on one day, and then the next day there was the actual application test out on the ice. It wasn't ice at that time; it was dry, of course, but
Right.
on the hockey rink, and they gave you a set of drawings. They said, "Here's your material." Come to find out, there were obviously errors in the drawings on purpose, and you just had to look at the drawings, get it built, get it figured out. There was radiuses and door frames
Oh,
and
wow.
little soffits, and it was no more. Maybe it was like a 10x10 platform with
Yeah.
a wood wall
Sure,
on it, and
sure.
you had to do. You had to perform some wood nailing. Then you had to frame some walls and soffits out of metal studs, set a door frame. There was a couple other things, put corner bead on and what have you. And there was judges that would walk around and judge your work. And there was some local Canadian guys there that were thought they were all that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I think I was one of the guys that brought the drawings over, and I said, "This I don't think this works. This isn't going to work," and they told me how to deal with that, and then we went through there, and you only had so much material. You couldn't ask, "Yeah, I need more studs," because I cut them all wrong. Can't do that.
Got
So
it.
I think that was 6 hours that they gave us to do what this.
That's
was
pretty
re-
impressive.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I came back, and the union gave me, I think, $500, and there was some recognition. I was in the paper. It was pretty neat as a young kid. I think at that point, I was maybe 18
Wow.
at that point,
Wow.
and yeah, it was a lot of fun. I know these days they have the drywall contests where see who can hang the most sheetrock and that type of stuff.
Sure.
I don't believe they have that same exact program that I went through, and I believe they had changed places. I think Wally's was in Hawaii, I believe.
Oh, that was a nice place.
Yeah. So yeah, that was
That's very impressive. So you had your hustle on again, right from the beginning to be able to get into that position. That's impressive.
certainly, yeah.
And you weren't even in your 20s yet
No.
when you pulled that off. So no desire to go to school or anything, go to college.
So I went to Don Bosco Technical Institute in Rosemead, and it was it's a technical high school college prep, and in 5 years you would come out of there with a high school diploma and an associate's degree in building science. So I got my associate's degree in 5 years out of that program there. And as I kind of mentioned, I had that internship for one semester is where Wally sent me out to that job. 'Cause I had to show some employment with a contractor is basically what I had to do as for the internship. So, I think at the time, I think I was making $7.50 an hour, $7.50 an hour. And I'm like, I'm a millionaire. Why would I want to go to school making $7.50? I had a drawer full of paychecks at $7.50 an hour,
Yeah.
where the payroll department would call me and say, "You need to cash those."
Got it.
I'm living at home.
Yeah.
I don't have much going on, right?
Right.
So I just chose not to. I was thinking maybe I can go to Cal Poly Pomona. I was going to go there and look into architecture and engineering and such, and I just
You were making
I
the
wanted
money.
to. I just wanted to, not necessarily the money. I really enjoyed, as I do still today. I really enjoy just creating and building. I mean,
Sure.
you get such all of us listening to this, and all yourself is even in your shop here. I mean, you create something, and you're like, man, that's awesome. You get this kind of an instant gratification,
Yeah.
almost like a rush, right?
Well, it's badass because you can touch it,
yeah,
and
Yeah.
it's it didn't exist.
exactly.
And that is definitely gratifying.
Yeah,
Especially when it's standing for decades.
sure.
And you can go back and check that out. And there's a lot of guys that got into construction that they were making. Well, back in the day, minimum wage was like $3.25.
So my dad paid me
right?
when he paid me.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
you over doubled your money,
Yeah.
and so you got an instant raise and everything. And then the other thing that's really cool about, coming up in the union too is they're giving you that incentive of, you're putting the hours in to move up to the next stage. And when you move up to that next stage, you're getting a raise,
Sure.
and that keeps them coming back for more.
Yeah.
It works. It's a good program
Yeah.
to make that work. And then, as you're moving up and you do get up to the top, being a foreman, getting the $2 an hour, I don't, that's what it was back then, is what they gave you was $2 an hour. It's a lot of extra responsibility.
Yes, it is.
But there's a lot of guys that are waiting in line and want to move into that leadership position.
Yeah.
It's really not about the money to them.
Right.
They just want to run this work,
Yeah.
And but it's a lot of extra responsibility because you're managing that project,
Right.
know? And it was like Greg was a piecer. Greg Stedman was a piece worker.
Excuse me.
So he that is the epitome of lean construction. And so now I know he's heavily involved in training this new labor to be lean. And even guys that are journeymen can still learn better moves.
Oh, absolutely.
To be
Yeah.
more productive on
Yeah.
these jobs. Because the bottom line is, the only way that your company is making money is by the material that you're installing on the wall.
Right. Adding value.
That's the bottom line, And the way that these jobs are set up and the way the foremen are setting it up, that, if you're paying a journeyman to hump material up on a job, you're not making money. If it's there for him to install, you have a really good chance of making some money on the job.
Absolutely.
And that's stepping back from a piece worker, and implementing that into an hourly situation is pretty interesting. And I think it's really creative, to make these companies more efficient out in the field.
Yeah.
Are you involved in any of that training, that program that they have going on right now?
Quite a bit. Yeah. So, when I came into this role as a general superintendent, I've known Greg since 2004, but in this role I'm in now, Greg and I talk about this quite a bit. He's certainly a mentor of mine at this point in the position I'm in now. So, he is our lean director for Khs&S, and he oversees, among many other things, but the lean culture and lean objectives and lean focus on all the other offices in the western states. And so he's also, as a partnership, him and I, we go out and we actually just, we nurture this culture of lean construction. We really do.
Yeah.
And it's, it's a lot of fun. It really, Khs&S has a culture that we have, and there's criteria that we follow that maybe each office might have a little difference in, but it's very consistent. It's very standard,
sure.
Right? And to our conversation earlier, I think it's really important that the apprentice, the youngest stocker scrapper that hasn't even worked on any project whatsoever, all the way up to our project superintendents and myself. We're constantly learning how to be a better carpenter.
Sure.
Some of these folks that come to work for us don't understand that. They don't get it. They don't know they don't know that what we're doing is helping them be a better carpenter.
Sure.
Whether they leave us and go to work for any of our competitors or they leave the industry, we're making them a better person, a better carpenter, a better lather, a better taper, a better plasterer, a better painter. They're all learning about how to do work better and smarter.
Sure.
And and sometimes those folks, they get up, they just like, nope, I'm not interested, and they walk off.
Yeah.
Some are very leery. You know, they'll stand back and go, okay, what's this about? You know, maybe I'll watch for a little bit and see if this makes sense. And then they come around and they're like, man, this is amazing. And then some of those guys just absolutely excel in this, and they'll take it, and they just proud to watch them coach, you know, our lean culture to other people.
Sure.
It's really, so there's a whole, you know, range
Yeah.
of people from not interested to I'm going to excel in this, you know, to help push this culture
Yeah.
that we're doing. So
Yeah. Well,
it's a lot of fun.
both of your personalities, yours and Greg's, are very soothing. Like you guys, you want to help people. You're not doing it as an ego trip, and you're not throwing that out there. And that's the vibe that I get off of you guys. That you just, if you don't understand it, we're going to explain it to you until you do understand it. We're going to do it in a respectful way. We're not going to try to degrade you or cut you down or anything like that. You know, some guys will pick it up right away, and some guys won't. And if they look like they're trying, then you're ready, willing, and able to help them.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
That's
And
where
you just
that goes.
watch them for a little bit and see where they're struggling.
Yeah.
Give them some suggestions. Some of them want your suggestions, and some of them don't.
Sure.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you don't take that personal. You know, but you
No, it's business.
exactly. And you know, you can pick out the good guys all right away with the experience that you have.
Yeah.
You know, and again, you know, getting back to, a lot of guys need to be taught how to work. It's kind of a skill some people need to learn, you know, and then eventually it will kick in, and it'll be like they're just off on their own. The light comes on, you know, and they're doing good. Some guys get it and some guys don't. Some guys take a little longer to get it, but they do get it.
Yeah. And I'm sure many of the people sitting in this chair probably have the same stories coming into this generation of workers, I guess you'll call it. They seem like they're getting younger and younger. They need more attention. They need more training. They need more coaching. They're not plug and play guys, you know, coming off the tracks or coming from, I mean, you get those guys as well, but I think if there was one thing that we're noticing is that these kids coming into this industry need more and more mentoring, and sometimes almost a father figure. You know, I played that role as well. We've all played that role of these. You see some young man or woman that comes into the industry that just need a break, and they're just so willing to do something, but they don't have that, and you just kind of coach them along, and then some of those people have stuck with me for my whole career because we gave them that we saw that diamond in the rough, and they're but these guys, they just need a little love. These guys, some coaching, some help, some, you know, not like, oh, your first day you're out,
right?
You know,
Well, you remember those days.
yeah.
You either did it or you didn't.
Oh yeah.
And if you didn't, get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
I'll get somebody else. And there were people lined up to do it, but it's changed a lot.
Yes,
you know?
it has.
And we, you know, you didn't come from a construction family.
No.
And a lot of
not
the
at all.
guys that I do have in here came from construction families where it was kind of in their blood. And, you know, maybe the dad didn't want them to get into the trade, but, you know, again, they would get in and they would work in the summers and they'd be making some good money, you know, and they'd be like, fuck that, man, I ain't going to school, you know. And they would stay in it and they'd work their way up, and they ended up being great mechanics.
Yeah.
And now it's like we were softer than our dads, the dads that were in the trade, and they were softer than the other guys beyond them, you know, because those dudes were tough, man. They were very, very tough. You know, they didn't have any of the safety stuff that's out there today.
Right.
And you know, even when you were an apprentice, okay, The safety stuff was there, but it wasn't there like it is today.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was not.
You know, they would fire you if you took too much time to set something up that was really super safe.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we all have those stories.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we don't have time for that.
Exactly.
Let's go.
Well, it was really funny. You know, they would, you know, in the 80s and 90s, you know, they were having these safety meetings, you know, for Raymond and all these big players. And they would say, okay, so, you know, if you got a ladder and there's a problem with it, you know, bring it back down here and we'll get you a ladder that's safe. So, you know, you bring a 6-footer down there, you say, hey man, you know, the rung is missing off this thing. Dude, we don't have any ladders, make that thing work.
Yep.
And we would, you know, so you wanted to
Yeah.
stay in their protocol, you know, because if you were using it and you didn't say anything to them, they'd be like, dude, what are you doing? Why are you using that ladder? But if they ran out of them, then, you know, that was another story. So it's
You know, the industry is always changing.
Yep.
And it's making all of us it's a little tougher, obviously, to get stuff done quicker, because there's all this paperwork and job hazard analysis and all this, you know, you can't just go to the gang box, grab your screw gun and go to the wall anymore. You know, there's all this protocol and you have to, and you know, we have to somehow pay for that. We have to put that into our production rates. You know, I mean, it's you know, regulations and safety and technology.
None of that shit was there 20 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. I was telling someone the other day, we were talking about all the, you know, the plan grid programs and all this computer programs and all this technology we have and all this great stuff. And, you know, when I first started running work, I think I had a pager and a calculator. Yeah. That was the extent of my technology. Mm-hmm. And we built a lot of great buildings and made a lot of good money doing it. Mm-hmm. And we had 0 lost time accidents.
Exactly. Yeah.
And now look at, we have all this technology and people complain it's not even enough.
Right.
It's different.
Right. And do you think that they're getting built faster?
No.
You know, when you start adding up all this pre-construction stuff that happens and all the pre-planning on these jobs and being in compliance with the paperwork and the safety issues and all this stuff that you have to put in place before you even put boots on the ground out on the job, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, it is.
You know?
Yeah.
It's mind-boggling, you know?
Yeah.
And we didn't have it back in the day. And the shit got built and it turned out good.
Yeah.
You know? And again, you know, very few projects. I was never on a huge job where there was a fatality. You know, there was cuts and bruises and shit like that. That's everyday stuff.
Sure.
Construction. But there was nothing major, like nobody lost a finger or a hand or fell off a building or anything like that. Not to say that doesn't happen.
Sure.
But you know, construction is kind of a common sense industry. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah, I would.
You know, you have to have some common sense. You know, if there's a hole there, man, don't walk over it, man. You know,
Right.
You're going to fall through it. You know.
Yeah.
So there's it's got to be very difficult for a guy like you that's been in the industry for a long time to see these changes and really have a great attitude. You have an awesome attitude of conforming to it. The other thing is if you don't, you're out, right? That's basically what ends up happening.
Yeah, correct.
If you're a crusty old fucker and you're going, no, that's not for me. I'm not doing that shit. I do it this way. We never did that. You're out.
Well, you have to.
You know.
You know, and you know, we're such in a litigious society, and everybody wants to, you know, sue somebody. So if you have someone that's refusing to do something, it's like, you know what, buddy, thanks for coming, because I can't employ you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. But you know, to your point a second ago, I mean, I really do. I mean, thank you for saying that. I really do like what I do still. No matter how tough it gets, I still love to build, right? Mm-hmm. And, you know, I'm still in the weeds, you know, although Greg is constantly telling me, Jeff, you can't can't stay in the weeds, buddy, anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You can go down there, but you got to come right back up.
Mm-hmm.
And but I still, I still like getting involved in some of the stuff you're working on, or I'm still playing with the nuts and bolts as much as I can.
Sure.
And I got to pull out of that to work with the corporate nuts and bolts sometimes, and it's at first coming into this position I'm in, it's like, that's corporate stuff. Not a big fan.
Well, it's a different world.
Oh, it certainly is.
Yeah.
It certainly is.
Yeah.
So, I enjoy the hands-on. I enjoy the job site still. I enjoy being out there with the guys. And of course, we have foremen, general foremen, and project superintendents that also need, some coaching, some training, some mentoring as well. So, I work on that, and I think it's ever changing, and I can always improve on that, I'm sure, as well. So,
sure.
Yeah.
It's a trip is a lot of the younger guys that are running jobs, say they're 25 years old and they're running work, and they were hustlers. I mean, you could see it when they were Cubs that they were going to move up the ladder. They have the same outlook and attitude as an old school guy that's been in it for 35 years. It's kind of a trip how that cloth is the same. They're born for that.
Sure.
Let's get this on and get it done, and I'm going to figure these problems out ahead of time for you, and I'm going to have you produce. And again, like Greg was saying too, you develop your workers and your foremen and your leaders.
Yes.
And it's a process.
Yeah.
And it's really, I get inspired by going out to some of these job sites and seeing these young guys that are running these jobs, and they just have this go get it attitude. It's freaking awesome. It's very inspiring. It really is.
Do you make it out to jobs quite often these days, or
not as much as I used to? I'm in here, we're bidding a lot of like weird stuff, that needs the technical end of it to figure it out and answering questions and so forth. And now these jobs, it's almost like you're given blood and urine samples to go out there on the project. I used to, back in the day, you could just drive up to a job, pull up, find a guy with a pair of snips. Okay, he's with that company.
Right.
And, look for Jeff. Hey, where's Jeff? Right. Oh, he's up on the third floor. Boom, walk up there. Hey, Jeff, what's up? So now it's even that's changed,
right.
to where you're some of these jobs have guards at them. You can't even get in the gate.
Right.
So that's you can't just show up. You got to make an appointment to do that stuff. So
got the badges, the orientation, the sometimes pre-employment drug testing.
Yeah.
You have all these certain gates to walk in, and
well, I had to go. You guys did the Star Wars and
Galaxy's Edge. Yep.
Yeah, they had some questions for me. They wanted me to come out into the field, and I had to go through all this stuff to spend 20 minutes out there.
You probably had to sign an NDA probably.
Oh yeah, NDA. I had to take a drug test. I had to go through all their safety program and all that stuff. I'm like, guys, no, Rob, this is what it is, man. So it's like, okay. And the other thing is too is, I'm sure you worked on jobs before you were foreman, and
sure.
It seems like the parking is even more difficult now than it was back in the day. Did you have to get on buses to come in and do all that stuff? Where you're parking 5 miles away and they're bringing you in and go through all that stuff. We used to just pull up on the job, or they'd have the parking structure done and everybody parked in there. But now it's logistics. Everything is getting a little tighter.
Certainly.
And that's all part of your day too. So how do you figure that? When the guy is riding on the bus for a half an hour of his time, is that part of your day, or is that a gimme?
So, we have to comply to the union regulations, of course. We see this a lot more like in the theme parks, Disney, Universal. Mm-hmm. We have those situations where there'll be a shuttle area where the guys have to be at there at a certain time. There's a certain bus schedule. Then they get driven down into the park somewhere. Mm-hmm. And then the same thing coming back. So they're paid for that travel
Oh, okay.
once they're there, right? And that's part. And the general contractors say, make sure that you're, including busing and I mean, there's cost that is captured to the client
Sure.
for that stuff.
Got
But
it.
yeah, to your point, we never had that exactly. You'd almost pull up anywhere or pull up in a parking lot and.
Yeah.
Well, I think there was a lot more room back then also, Rob.
Yeah. Well, that's
lot
what
more
I'm saying.
buildings
The logistics, there wasn't as much stuff built,
Right.
So it's, it makes it, but all of that stuff when you're bidding these jobs has to get factored into the cost.
Yeah.
That's not free money, so are they 8 hours of production, or does that get cut down so that it's the total 8-hour day? Are they really only getting like 6.5?
So it depends on the contract,
Mm-hmm.
and the way the way we have our contract with the general contractor.
Got it.
So like over at on some of the theme parks we've worked on, it was known that it's a 7-hour day,
Mm-hmm.
and that 30 minutes they're allowing 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes in the afternoon, right? And so they get 8 hours on their check, of course.
Sure.
And then we just budget it to a certain code, what have you. But I mean, on a good day, yeah, you're probably only getting about 5 3/4 to 6.5 hours of work from a guy. Anyway,
Yeah.
Seems like these days on
Yeah.
a good day, between breaks and bathroom and
Sure.
disruptions and waiting and
Yeah.
all those things that waste your day.
Yep.
Which is a lot of how we're trying to eliminate that waste through our culture with Khs&S.
Yeah.
Get that guy on the wall for as long as he's supposed to be there working.
Yep.
Let's maximize that value.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
that comes from the management
Oh yeah,
of watching that.
absolutely. Yeah.
Because it's getting, when it was regular, it was 7 hours. You're getting paid for 8, but you're only really getting 7 hours of production, and now that's even getting cut down more. And especially on with the safety issues that you guys have to deal with, that's slowing your production down. That's not increasing production.
Did you ever do a stretch and flex in the 80s or 90s?
Never.
Yeah.
That's protocol now, right?
Oh yeah.
That's like a daily deal.
Oh, it's absolutely automatic.
Shit, I'd be tired by the time
Yeah.
I got done with that.
Oh yeah.
I
mean, if you start at 7 o'clock, if your day, a lot of guys will try and get their stuff done prior to the start of the actual day,
Mm-hmm.
but you're not adding value probably till 7:20,
Mm-hmm.
7:30 maybe.
Sure.
You roll your stuff out and you're like, well, I need to, I use a restroom real quick. So you run. By the time you're putting a screw in the wall, it's 7:30 in the morning. You just lost 30 minutes.
Yep.
And they'll keep doing that.
Right.
So it's up to, you're right, to your point, it's up to the management to get them on the wall at 7:10.
Exactly.
And there's just, there's methods and ways to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's I mean, the money is just incredible for the hourly wage. It's I don't.
It's about depending upon what company you're working with, it's about $1.15 a minute now for a fully burdened union carpenter journeyman. About $1.15. Every contract's a little bit different. Every job site, every
Sure.
company might have a different overhead package. But the guy goes to the bathroom. He's gone for a few minutes. $20.
Yeah. That's some expensive shit.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
And
And you start thinking about that type of stuff.
Yeah, and those numbers are huge.
Yeah.
They are huge because we've always made good money in the field.
Yes.
Lived above the average.
Absolutely. Proud to be a union carpenter for all this time. A lot of guys I graduated with, they're not making journeyman scale today.
Exactly. I mean, it's a killer package. It really is. And when you guys are getting these trick jobs, these really super difficult jobs, are they pulling you in to do some pre-con on that stuff?
Yeah, quite a bit. We do a lot of pre-construction.
No, but I mean you personally. Hey Jeff.
Oh yeah,
we
I'm
got
quite
these-
involved. I'm quite involved in our office.
Mhm.
We've, the days of handing a guy a set of drawings, 2 weeks before the job starts, those aren't
Those are
there
gone?
anymore. I mean, based on all those things we just talked about, all that
Yeah.
pre-construction and all that stuff that's happening, yeah, you got to build that plan. You want that plan to work, you better pre-plan that thing.
For
right?
sure.
And so, Khs&S, among many other competitors, I'm sure, they have like a BIM department, construction design department. We have estimating. We have all these departments that have all their fingers on all this work, which is part of that pre-construction.
Sure.
And especially when you get into some of the stuff that maybe no one's ever done, heck, I was involved in, as a project superintendent, I was involved in Star Wars Galaxy's Edge for 3 years.
Is that
13 months before we even put a boot on the ground, I was in Glendale.
No shit.
That was a great experience working with them.
Wow.
But I was involved for 3 years, all duration there. Ended up having the opportunity to go to work in Florida at Disney World as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was a great experience. But if you don't have that pre-construction time to set up, your structural engineers, constructability, value engineering,
Yeah.
and of course, clients and general contractors are hiring, folks like Khs&S to do maybe even separate pre-construction contracts before they even give us the job.
Sure.
So pre-construction, because it seems like the more advanced we get with all this technology,
Yeah.
like the less we know.
It's a trip.
And we have, offices full of college graduates. Nothing wrong with that.
Mm-mm.
Never put a screw in.
No.
Never
Don't even know what a screw is, an
Right.
A-point or a tech.
Never put a piece of lath up. Never put a piece of drywall up. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
God bless them, but they need the training. And
It
the
would help them
understanding.
so much if they did.
Yeah,
It would make their job easier.
yeah,
I really, even if it was for 3 months,
yeah.
see how
And,
heavy this shit is.
And we have little programs internally where we will take some of these interns or some of these really young estimators or project engineers and let's go. I'm going to show you how to do this today.
Mm-hmm.
These are job visits and mentoring and kind of take them out and show them what we do and how we do it and why we do it. Right?
Sure.
There's always a why, right?
So have any of them ever said, hey, man, I want to get in the field?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Yeah, we've actually had it both ways. We've actually had carpenters that said, you know what, carpenters, tapers, painters. I've actually had guys. One of our really young project managers, John Martinez, he was a taper here 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I think I'm done with taping. I want to see what the office is about. And he's a great project manager. And
But he worked in the field and he knows.
he was a taper. He gets it. He knows what. He has that edge, I guess, that little edge of being in the field.
Sure.
Yeah.
It makes a big difference.
Yeah,
It really
it does.
does. I couldn't imagine getting into construction and not knowing how to build shit. It would be very, very strange but I'm not wired that way either.
Right.
I would want to know how that stuff, it would be intriguing,
And yet I get several phone calls and emails regarding people that want to be sponsored. So there's still these young 18, 19-year-old folks coming out of high school that something, it's either I just want to be in construction because I want a quick job or something's driving them to the construction.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them have had zero experience in construction or maybe even never been employed before.
Sure.
And like I mentioned earlier, some of those guys, they rise to the top.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them don't, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of people that are looking to be sponsored.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's a good sign.
it really is.
Yeah, because they've been shoving this education thing down everybody's throat since they were in preschool. All the new generations that are coming up in this stuff, and that a lot of those markets are saturated. There's a lot of coders out there, and there's you can't get those jobs. You have to be exceptional to be accepted in
Right.
those scenes. So doctors, nurses, engineers, and scientists and all that. Yeah, you need college for that. You need to, there's a lot of trick math that goes into that stuff. But
Yeah,
to have that you're going to be a loser if you don't have a degree. That's bullshit.
that's rough, right?
I don't agree with that.
Yeah,
You talk to any of these guys that came in when you and I did. maybe they would like to have moved up the ladder higher, but that all comes with your attitude as well. You know, if you're going the extra mile and you're putting up more than the next guy, it's recognized. The leadership recognizes that. You're looking for that every day.
Yep.
You know, you can see that when you're out on the job. You know, you're dealing with your foreman out there, but you still have your eyes open and seeing who's getting what done. I mean, you're like, hey, what is that guy? What is he doing? You know, and then the foreman's like, what the hell is he doing?
I notice the guys that don't give me excuses are definitely the ones that they own it. They own the issue. There's no excuses. They're the ones that are moving up.
Mm-hmm.
You have a team of people that have a lot of excuses.
Yeah,
they're not usually the ones that move forward.
No.
You know, I think you and I didn't have excuses. We were back in the day. We were told what to do. Told. Probably
yes.
yelled. We were probably yelled at. Told what to do.
Yeah.
There was no talking back.
Yeah.
You did the work. You did the job as fast as you possibly physically could, probably in an unsafe way.
Yep. Yep.
And the next day you tried to go faster, and faster the next day,
Yeah.
and then faster the next day.
Yeah. Yeah.
You see those people today, they're keepers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. There are some out there.
There is.
There are some out there. Like I said, you see these young guys,
Yeah.
it's inspiring.
When I get these folks that want to get sponsored, I usually give them a call because I'll get an email of a list or whatever. I'll give them a call and I'll just talk to them. And you can usually almost tell as you're talking to them, without even seeing them or meeting them. You can tell by their attitude or the way they're speaking with you, or, man, boss, I'd like to come in, but I don't have gas tomorrow, or my car broke down, or my goldfish drowned, or they're giving you excuses and you're just talking.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
So you get the guy that's like, yeah, I'll take the bus. I'll be there tomorrow.
Yeah.
You're like,
what's the
got
address and what time are you starting?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
those are good days when you see those people coming.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And it takes so long to move up the ladder. There's so many different aspects of our industry.
Yeah.
Are you what's happening now, what I notice and I hear from a lot of guys, is everybody's a frickin' specialist. When you came up, you got to be good at everything in that trade. Right. You don't have to be excellent at it, but you have to be proficient at it so that you can get in. If you get onto a job and he has all these framers going and you really excel in framing, but he says, hey dude, all I got right now, I got some board for you to hang, or I've got, want you to frame in access panels or whatever it is. Be good at it.
Right.
You're getting paid good money for this.
Yeah.
And if there's an opening in the framing crew and you're excelling at framing and this foreman's never met you before and you're putting up more than the rest of the crew out there, it's going to get recognized. You'll be framing for the rest of that project.
Sure.
Or whatever you're good at, but you should be proficient at everything in the trade, in my opinion. Because again, you're making some good money on that stuff. The other thing that I see on a lot of these is, you're really not a journeyman until you got 10 years in the game. Because you've been put in so many different situations and you know how to get out of them and make them look good. You can improvise with the materials. You have, a lot of the efficient moves to make to get it done to where you're not, running in circles chasing your tail.
Right.
And a lot of these jobs that, you need a guy to throw in the fire caulking, okay? But not for 3 fucking years.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
and
we can destroy people like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So they need to be moved around. But I had one guy tell me, yeah, man, I'm the fire caulking foreman. Well, groovy, man. You must be really good at that. It's going to get covered up with baseboard, but he felt good about it. But they need to be moved around. And, same with like all this panel operations that are going on. So panelization isn't new. I was doing it as an apprentice back in the 80s. We were building skins of hotels in these little industrial buildings, and shipping them out and doing all that crap. Learned a lot of stuff on production, how to set up for cuts and repetitious cuts, your stops and so on and so forth. A lot of guys that may be coming into the trade may be put into those panel operations, but they need to be put into the field too.
Sure.
Because there's a lot of, it's a different world. You're in a controlled environment in a panel situation, right?
Right. Like a manufacturing plant.
Right.
Yeah. You don't get the same experience, the same conditions, the same troubleshooting situations,
Exactly.
the same, probably like the same of homeschooling versus a kid out in school, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. They got to live and learn and
Mm-hmm.
see what it's like to be out on a job site.
Mm-hmm. And now I think that the panelization, because of the cost of construction, the labor, and the safety issues that you have to deal with out on the job, that's making this excel even further, to be able to panelize it.
Well,
do you agree?
It's all about risk.
Correct.
It's all about risk,
Yeah.
risk and profit, really.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously those panels need to be sent to a job site and installed by carpenters more than likely.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there's that end of it, but, the quicker, the safer, and the more accurate you can build anything, whether that's in the field or in a computerized robotic plant.
Mm-hmm. The better.
Yeah, absolutely.
It means profit.
No one's getting hurt,
Mm-hmm.
or less people are getting hurt. You're more controlled.
Sure.
You don't have cranes and man lifts and scissor lifts and all those things that just seem to, kind of mess up your safety
Schedule and protocol.
and
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I'd love to see a figure on a massive job of how much time was wasted waiting for a man lift.
Yeah.
To get materials up and down and so forth. I mean, God, that is, especially on these massive projects, the thing would go by, it'd be packed. It'd be 40 guys packed in that bloody thing, and there you're waiting for the next round.
Yeah.
To come through.
Those staggering numbers that are, and Greg really accentuates all these, these big numbers as far as how that stuff reproduces itself and just adds up.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of, to your point, I figured out one day on a big hospital that I was running years ago that for the duration of that hospital, I spent $650,000 in safety meetings.
Oh, shit.
If you add up the people, because it was a very large job,
Sure.
I spent $650,000 non-value added, 15 minutes at a time.
That is unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Was that figured somewhere?
Was it?
No, of course not. It's baked into your production.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's only 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And you actually came up with those figures.
Well, I started adding them up one day.
Mm-hmm.
I just started going, okay, this guy's making this much money. He spent 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I've got 100 guys here every Monday for 3 years.
Yeah.
Or what, you just start adding up all that stuff, and
Yeah.
and people don't really realize what stuff costs until you start giving it to them that way. They think it's 15 minutes. Come on, Jeff, 15 minutes.
You're being chicken shit, man.
Yeah, but then you start adding up all that stuff.
Yeah.
Or a guy waiting for the man lift, or a guy having to walk down the hall because his board is, 2 rooms down.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's just 2 rooms. Come on. You
Right.
didn't get your 40 sheets?
Right.
Well, what would happen if the board was in the room?
Exactly.
Guy might get 60 sheets,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah. Well, what would happen if it was your money?
exactly. Absolutely.
That puts a different spin on it.
It certainly
when
does.
that happens.
Yeah.
But nobody, this has changed, like this lean construction. I don't know how long people have been talking about this, but it's changing the game of how production gets done on these jobs.
It certainly is.
And it's very important, because if it's not addressed, I feel the union trades could get kicked out of the trades. The owners of these buildings are going to look for alternative labor.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of big non-union guys out there
Certainly is.
that have really good guys working for them
Yeah.
that can get these jobs done for a lot less money.
So as the general contractors now are writing their contracts, they literally put lean requirement sections in their contracts. I
Wow.
just read one here. Just actually, I was in a contract review last week,
Huh.
and this is about the third or fourth one I've seen personally, where there's actually, where they're talking about your scope of work and your safety requirements, your typical contract on a job that's 200 and something pages long these days.
Yeah.
There's a section for lean construction, and it's basically states that, your supervision and management will do these things. You will provide last planner. You will do, your weekly work plans. You will be doing stand-up meetings. You will be doing, these lean, all the lean buzzwords, that
Sure.
you see these days, right?
Yeah.
It's in the contract.
Wow.
And so they can use that against you, or, you can obviously take it upon yourself and take those requirements, take a certain culture, put it out into the field and improve these guys so that, these clients are going to go, man, these union carpenters and this company, Khs&S or whoever, these are top-notch people.
Exactly.
They've got some trained individuals that know how to do a job right and do it safe and on time. We're going to hire them again.
Exactly.
Right. If we don't keep improving, we're going to go nowhere.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that's very interesting to hear that you're seeing that in contracts. Where you have to. So now you got to hire like 5 people to manage that. Or
certain supervisors certainly think that I can't do it all.
Yeah.
And there's, there is an added layer of expectation and responsibility to manage that.
Sure.
And that's where, people like myself and Greg, for example, we see those requirements and we're there to help, so they're not necessarily bombarded and buried with that type of stuff.
Sure.
But it's just another layer of requirements, paperwork, meetings. Gee, many Christmas meetings.
Yeah. Yeah. Lots
I mean,
of them.
there's in the 80s, maybe you went to maybe a foreman's meeting, maybe.
Yeah.
Now we have superintendents now that are 4.5 to 5 hours of meetings every day.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That is really amazing. And so do you have any family in the industry?
I do not.
Got it.
I do not.
You said you have a son.
I have a son who lives in Fort Collins, Colorado, and I'm going to be a grandpa in about 3 weeks.
Oh, congrats.
So that's pretty cool. Yeah.
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 What's he doing?
He's in the computer industry.
Got it.
Went to school, got his degree in computer science, got married, bought a condo, all within about a year, moved to Fort Collins.
Wow.
And he's 23.
Good for him.
Yeah, and they're gonna have a son here, in October.
Got it.
Yeah. So I literally have nobody in my family. I have 5 sisters, and none of them are in construction.
That is so interesting, man.
Yeah.
It's really a trip to.
And my dad was kind of an entrepreneur, restaurant owner. Was in the Navy and came out and worked for the railroad. Never. Yeah.
That is really a trip. Is the restaurant still going?
It's no longer. It was called Cleary's Family Restaurant in La Habra. It's no longer. The building is still there, and it's a restaurant. But no, my parents sold that in the late '80s.
Got it. So your sisters didn't want to take it over or anything like that?
It is hard work.
It is hard work.
I don't know how my parents put the 6 of us through, private education. I don't know how they did it back.
They worked their ass off.
They did. They never had the fancy cars or the big houses. Yeah.
Yeah. That's tough.
Yeah.
That's tough. So you were a Southern California native. You were born here.
Yep. Born and raised in La Habra. Born in Long Beach. Yeah.
Got it. Got it.
Most of my family still lives in the general Orange County area.
Got it. Well, you've had a hell of a career, man. And you have some good stories.
It's been great.
Again, I hope these younger guys are tuning into this stuff and learning from this. I mean, this is how they can pick up some tricks and try to make their life easier.
Yeah.
And really appreciate you taking some time out of your day to come in here, Jeff.
It's been great.
Thank you very much.
It's a great. I think your podcasts are great.
Thank you. Thanks.
You're doing a great service for the industry. Appreciate that.
Thanks a lot, Jeff. You have a great day.
You're welcome. You too, Rob. Thanks.